Have you been surprised at some of the sort of things that people pulled from this movie in different places? And because Diana is a little bit of a Rorschach blot, I feel like, and also obviously means so much to so many people. Is that a full question?
Yeah. In fact, it's so full.
Too full. Once the movie's actually living in the world, I guess, when you've spent months making it.
Yeah, you have one experience doing something, and then like how it ripples is always like surprising. I think. Oh God, I wish I had a fully fledged like. Okay, so everybody thinks they know this story, and it's really satisfying to know stuff. As humans, we love to know exactly like what something is called or exactly how. It's like, as an audience member, you want to be like, I know how to experience this movie, and thank you for telling me exactly how to do it, and it was satisfying because I did it, and it lined up, and that is one way of making a movie for sure. And then a slightly less satisfying thing in a pervasive sense is when it actually engages you and makes you like project and think, and not to sound like totally self-inflated, fucking pretentious bullshit, whatever. But I totally understand how unsatisfying the movie could be if what you want is to run around first base and second base and third base and hit home. Like, that isn't the movie. And so I guess I was like, I mean, it's been fully received and whatever, but I think the whole thing is how personal the movie is, even though it's about someone that is incredibly known. And I so respect Pablo for like actually committing to that, because it invites a more complicated conversation that's not easy to have, and I'm still trying to have it. Is that an answer?
I think so. Yeah. Why not? Sure.
She goes, no.
No.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, I would love to talk about Pablo though, because he had so much personal passion for this film, and you've worked with some amazing directors: David Fincher, Ang Lee, Kelly Reichardt, Catherine Hardwicke. I'm thinking of all.
What was that?
Yeah. Is that a fish tank?
I know. It's like
there was a burble. But one thing that stands out to me, and particularly your films with Olivier Assayas, Clouds of Sils Maria, Personal Shopper. I know that Pablo, I think, was a big fan of Personal Shopper, but one thing I find so remarkable about him and Olivier is that they make films about women's interior worlds and lives. And Pablo had spoken about how, his mother was a big Diana fan, but how was he able to pull you into something so scary? Was it that passion that he had?
We like don't even need microphones, but let's make this really intense. I think it's so unbelievably surprising and compassionate to like delve into feeling in the way that he did, because I think the reason the movie is cool, and it's embarrassing to say that your movie is cool, but I think the reason it has perspective and like it has a really emboldened viewpoint is because he was like so committed to her interior life. And I think from a male perspective, the fact that he like aggrandizes those feelings in a visual way is just so nice. Like, it's such a nice thing to be like, remember when you wanted to rip your pearl necklace off and fucking eat it? Like, well, then do it. Yeah, like it's so nice to have like a man be like, from such a delicate but also very muscular, like he was like, let's not sort of a little bit kind of touch on the feeling. It was like, no. I will fully realize this for you. We will visualize it. We will shoot it all day. Like, to externalize an internal feeling in that way is something that cinema allows us to do. And I could describe a dream to you. I could like tell you what I dreamt about or tell you about how this one time I felt like dying. But the conversation will never get as close as what you could do with a movie. And the fact that he was like, I don't know exactly what she did, said, thought, felt, whatever, in whatever moment that everyone attaches to that we've seen in, you know, the news or whatever. But to actually visualize a dream of hers or a nightmare or a fantasy, it's just like paying credence, like real fucking honor to like a woman's inner feelings and life in a way that is surprising. And I don't know, I was just like, thank you. Like that's like what movies can do. Like we didn't make this movie to just say all the shit that we already know. We did something to just be like, hey, and just imagine, you know? And yeah, I think it's a really like compassionate act. It's a really like nice thing to do.
An act of love, almost.
Fully, like literally. Yeah.
Well, I feel like when I saw the film first, it felt so impressionistic and like, you know, like it might have been improv, but Steve and I actually wrote a very tight script, and you shot pretty much every scene, right? But how?
You shoot all the scenes.
Pretty much, pretty much. But how do you go about? Obviously, you've played real people before, Gene Seberg and Joan Jett, and there's a certain responsibility that comes with that. But Diana, there's so much information that you're putting your mouth on a fire hose, basically, when you look at what's out there in the world about her. How did you curate your own research so that you didn't sort of drown in it?
I'm just picturing dogs like biting at hoses. They're like cheeks supposed to so there's like so much to tear through. Everyone has written a memoir, everyone has like a different perspective, and they all cancel each other out, and at the same time create like some sort of, if it was easy to define exactly like who she was or what her experience was, we would not still be talking about it. Like it's all the gaps and all the areas in which we're like, how the fuck did that happen? That you know, elicits this like lean in. I guess like reading everything and looking at her, the script is so precisely written, as you said, and it definitely is like, there's nothing wrong in it. Like nothing is like egregiously, you know, wrong. But all of it is a dream, and it's totally a personal fucking projection, completely. The only reason I had to research anything was to sound right, look right. Even though it's not right, it's still absolutely. If you did side by sides, they are so starkly different. Like it is like concentric circle thing. There is an overlap, but it's not the same thing. It was about like wanting to protect her, and my opinion of her is only mine. Like my relationship with her is only mine, and that's all the movie is. Because people felt like they owned her, and like, you know, rightfully, like it feels really good to feel reflected. Like when you see someone in a certain position and you feel like maybe that could be you, or even if it's not like, even if there's not an overlap, that she would still want, this person like touched people in the most literal way, but you cannot reach back and touch her, and you want to, and it's like what isolates her, and it fucking hurts, and it's very hard to like define, but the only way that you could ever do it would be very personally, because that is who she is. Yeah, like you think about like movies like The Iron Lady, like, you know, like areas where people just fucking nailed it. We did a totally different thing, but
you were nailing Jell-O, maybe.
Yeah, let's think of another metaphor. Let's just speak in lots of weird pictures and symbols. Yeah.
Yes, we're doing hieroglyphs.
It's like those videos where they like pat the ass of like a Jell-O pig.
That's your pull quote, you guys.
Claire? Yeah.
Well, you've talked about obviously the accent, which is a very rarefied accent. Only a few thousand people probably speak in that sort of royal, ancient British thing. But a lot of the movie, so much of it is the physicality. It's silences, it's movement, it's, you know, capturing stuff without words. Do you find that easier or harder, the words or the or the physical?
Well, I mean,
Aside from the dancing, is it true? I had read somewhere that you wore heels the whole time.
I was so fucking cold. Just had heels on the whole time.
Even when they weren't on
Like,
screen.
like stockings. Oh my god.
You suffered for your art.
Yeah, like there's a certain contortionist thing that had to happen that was just like anyone else probably just would have had an easier time doing it. I said to Pablo when he was like, "Hey, I think you should make this movie with me," and I was like, "You could definitely have an easier time with someone else." He's like, "I don't want that. Like, I don't want to have an easy time doing it. It's cool if it's like such a stretch, like just you know." And yeah, it sucked. I loved it. Like every single day was just like exploding.
Just freezing your ass off in Germany.
Yeah, I was just like Pablo. Wait, what was the original question?
I forgot. Oh, just the physicality of it.
Yeah. So she communicates in the weirdest ways because she's not allowed to talk. And so everything she does is kind of like through a veil or physical and so desperate. I think that like every time I see her in anything, I'm like, oh man, I'm literally allowed to sit on the stage and be asked questions, and I'm allowed to be like, let me tell you exactly how I feel. This person is constantly just like, being like, someone's holding her, even though physically she's so expressive. Everything she does is like an undulation or hiding or like she could be saying, hey, how are you? But her eyes are saying, please save me. And
Silent scream, yes.
yeah. And so
Blink
yeah,
twice if you need to leave Sandringham.
yeah, So the physical stuff that's how she spoke. Like there was so much. Ultimately, she became somebody who was allowed to be articulate, but before that, she was definitely like screaming in different ways. Yeah, and she's very tall and like statuesque. And I don't know if you guys know about like so I was like really like I hated that. I was like, fuck, I cannot get taller. But the way he shot
You're just
it,
not acting hard enough.
well, next time I'll try harder. But the way he shot it was like so also generous because like it's either on my shoulder the entire time, or there's like a wide angle lens that's it's so assaultingly close. The most visible I have ever felt. I never felt while making this movie that I had to be like, hey, I think you need to come over here because something's happening and you're not seeing it. There's always a point in which you're like, dude, you have to come over here because I'm gonna say this again, because something's happening, you're not seeing it. And like in this movie, I couldn't hide from him. I couldn't hide from her. And it's the way that it's shot. Like if it was shot in any sort of objective way, like it just would never feel the way that it felt. Not even like the result of it, but just the experience of making it.
The intimacy maybe is. Wait, had you shot on film before?
I'm really old. I've been working since yeah,
right.
Of course.
Yeah.
I was working before digital existed.
So, I mean, there's other challenges with that too. You don't get to cheat certain things in the cold, in the room by yourself. But, sorry, you know what? I want to take a minute real quick to talk about some of your co-stars.
A moment of silence.
Yes. No, let's have a moment of celebration for, when I spoke to Pablo, he talked about what a huge Mike Leigh fan he was, the director Mike Leigh. And you have kind of half a Mike Leigh film in this because you have Timothy Spall, Sally Hawkins, Jacqueline Duran, the costume designer, had worked a lot with Mike Leigh. Because you've been acting for so much of your life and because you and Pablo love film so much, did the two of you get to geek out on a lot of this stuff?
Yeah, Pablo couldn't contain himself. It was embarrassing for him. He was like, every time Timothy came on set, he would just go, and to because we are such outsiders, obviously very non-British, and he's a guy, I'm a scuzzy kid from Los Angeles. It just didn't. It wasn't we had to really work for it, And then we had these like seminal, fucking incredible, otherworldly British actors there. And Sally Hawkins was like, there's no one else in the fucking world who should be doing this but you. And I was like, tell me one more time. I was like, wait, okay, so really? You're stoked? Okay, great, that's fine. Yeah, but they're also, they bring their whole lives to movies. There are some actors that don't, like they don't feel, like fuck the moment, fuck whatever year it is, whoever you're working with, whatever movie it is, whatever fucking perspective you're really trying to convey, like whatever. Those people are people that we've lived with. And it feels really nice when Sally walks into a room. Because we know her. Like she's a fucking angel. And I was so lucky. When she walked onto the set, I felt like a huge sense of relief. And in the movie, she's kind of like this figment, like this imaginary figment. And so, she's perfect in the movie. Like she writes me emails in verse. Like she writes me like little like bird talk emails. And also, she must be working on something else because she's not done any of the promotion because I don't think she's built for it. And also, I'm like, leave her the fuck alone. Like, no, really, I'm like, she doesn't have to do that. I'll do it all, and thank God we had her. Like, yeah, I just love her so much. Basically, I miss her. I'm really just unloading on you guys. Yeah, she's great.
She gives you some of the most beautiful sort of, she gives you a lot in the film too. And I was thinking, there's that Diana quote where she says, the worst disease is being unloved, basically. And that's definitely not exactly how it goes, but it's hard to think of someone who was sort of more loved and more lonely at the same time. And it's interesting that you said figment, because I think a lot of people wanted to know how real a lot of these characters were. And my takeaway was that it doesn't matter in the end, really, right? We should also talk about the music very quickly. And we're hoping he doesn't beat himself, because he's up for 2 Oscars for the score, for this and for Power of the Dog.
Oh, wait a second. Was he nominated for our movie?
Oh,
I was like, I don't think so. I was like,
oh, I'm sorry. That was bad. I shouldn't have said that. But it's a spectacular score, and Pablo for Jackie as well was a massive feeling score. But all the music that Pablo was playing you offset, right, when you had to do all your dancing scenes.
Yeah.
Are you the kind of person who makes a playlist for every role you do?
Yeah, it's called Spence.
Can you give us a couple deep cuts?
There's a band that I didn't know about. Do you have my phone?
We need the receipts.
Yeah, only because like actually, I don't know how I had never heard these couple of songs, but do you guys have some time? Okay. So, only because this is the best part of the interview. So, I'm gonna start this out. So Lucy Dacus, I don't know how you say that. She did a Dancing in the Dark cover.
Yes.
It's just like, that's so, she loves power ballads, and she's like crying on the fucking floor to Phil Collins all the time. Like, that's like how I picture her, and just like counts being like, she like loves pop music. But for a girl voice to do that is sick. And then like Crowded House, Alan Parsons Project, ELO, Jennifer Bush, The Power of Love.
Some of these are songs that, not Lucy Dacus, but some of them are ones Diana might have listened to. That is a Quiet Storm jam, that one.
The thing about playing this part is so fun. Like, you get to listen to music like that, and even though it's absolutely like you're constantly holding the loss the whole time, because every time she has a cool moment or something that feels like embodied and realized, you just go, you are fucking dead, dude. It is can't believe it. I know it's like fine, whatever. Like you can laugh at the worst things, but it is impossible to hold. Like all of, like the breadth of her life is impossible to hold in a moment, which is why we're all like trying to hold it in a moment. It's impossible. It's too much to hold in one moment, which is why people keep telling stories about her.
Well, I think, do we have time for questions? Oh, we got to wrap it up. But I do want to ask one question because you are still the only American actress to ever win a César for South Maria. And I know you were nervous during that acceptance speech, but I thought you kind of nailed it. Not to jinx you, but do you feel prepared to stand up for this film after all this time with it? How are you feeling about this moment?
The other day I had to call, so COVID's fucked us all, and so there's like very few people that are allowed to go to the Oscars this year, and it's like a particular thing, and seating is a whole thing, and I never ask for anything. I would never call anyone about anything. Like, you'll never get a call from me. Like, that will just never ever happen. But I like had to call this seating guy and was like, if you don't put Pablo next to me, you have to. And like, even if, you know, at this point, this is stuff that you hear like people say, but in this case, it really lands. This category is like, these people are, I study them. The other women in this, like I would, at this point, I'm just like floating through. My head is spinning, and I'm like, I'm living a simulation. But as long as I can sit next to him and watch Olivia Colman accept her Oscar, I will be literally doing backflips. I'm good. Yeah, I can't believe the fact that this fucking movie wasn't nominated kills me. Dude, I guess I'll do this. This man and the people that made this movie, the reason I am good in this movie is because of everyone else. And so I guess I'm standing for them all, but like, Jesus Christ, it is them. Yeah.
On that note, it's also her. Thank you so much for joining